Hello, welcome to today's tutorial. We're going to be painting a pretty garden scene using oil paint. As usual, the colours from top left to right are titanium white, lemon yellow, yellow ochre on the next row, cadmium red, crimson alizarin and permanent mauve. On the next row I've added some cobalt blue on the left, French ultramarine in the middle and primary cyan on the right hand side. And the last colour is sap green. And I'll add some of the Liquin, which is my drying medium, to thin the paint. Normally I prefer to use linseed oil, but linseed oil has a slower drying time, so for this demonstration I'll be using the other liquid. So firstly, we're going to paint a light blue sky using the palette knife to mix the colours. Using a mix of titanium white and a small amount of cobalt blue. I've painted to about halfway down the canvas and I've left a few white hills where I'll add some trees and greenery. Now I'm mixing a little more of the blue mix and adding a touch of permanent mauve, combined with some yellow ochre. A bit more white. This is going to make a tree trunk in the distance, so I'm making a brown colour. The mauve has red in it, so red, yellow and blue make brown. This will be a browny grey. I'm blending the colours until I find the right hue. A little bit of the cyan, some more mauve, and I'm going to start to mark out the trunk using a small round brush. I'm pressing quite lightly when I do the branches. Now mixing some yellow ochre, some crimson and some mauve, a bit of white and some cyan. This has made a darker mix. The branches will fade in and out as I apply more and less pressure moving along. The trees in the distance will have a faded appearance and those in the foreground will have much stronger colour and more detail. I'm using the same branch colour with some extra white and a bit of cyan for the leaves going around the tree at the end of the branches, and I'm just doing tiny dabs here and there. A bit of French ultramarine, making an orange mix using cadmium red, lemon yellow and some white. This is adding warmth to the trunk and some of the branches. I'm adding some extra white to highlight the leaves and parts of the branches, and this is mixing with the colour that's already on the brush. For a new tree, a larger one that's in the foreground, I'm going to make an orangey brown using some yellow ochre and red mixed in with the darker mix to the left. Adding some French ultramarine to darken this colour, and a touch of crimson for the darker branches and the trunk. Making the branches a bit thicker where they meet the trunk and thinner towards the end away from the tree. Using some white, lemon yellow and cadmium red, I'm mixing a nice warm light tone for the bark on the left of the tree where it catches the light. Here we're using some crimson alizarin, yellow ochre, and mixing it with the tree trunk colour that we used earlier for the main branches leading up into the sky. Once again using some French ultramarine for the shady side of the tree. To achieve some different colour and variations in tone, we'll mix different colours for the bark. Here I'm using permanent mauve, primary cyan, and some yellow ochre with the mix on the left. Again using a small filbert brush, and for the thin parts of the branches I use the brush sideways on. Some new colour for the lighter side of the tree, white, yellow ochre, cadmium red, a touch of lemon yellow, a bit of permanent mauve, and mixing it all together. And here I'm adding a tiny amount of French ultramarine to tone down the reddy colour. I'm making a new dark mix for the shadow side using permanent mauve, ultramarine, yellow ochre and some crimson, and I'm mixing it all together, varying the quantities until I get the right colour. Having cleaned my palette, I'm starting again with a range of green colours, taking some ultramarine, sap green and white. A separate mix of cyan, ultramarine, sap green, a touch of mauve. Now a mix of the two blues I used before, sap green and some white. A touch of the green mix on the left. I haven't finished there, I'm adding a touch of the sap green. Now mixing in some white on the right hand side. I'm dabbing gently on the canvas next to the first tree, and these are the faint branches of a new tree, a type of fir tree. Starting with some yellow ochre, I'm now using the pre-mixed colours and the green mix on the left and a touch of the mix on the right. And I'm making the branches appear slightly faded where they catch the light and the ones in the background. I'll continue making the branches of the tree using the same technique. Some branches will be darker and some will be lighter, and I'll use the colours that I mixed before. I've cleaned my palette and made a new light green mix using Sap Green, Cobalt Blue and some white to give the tree texture and some highlights. Now using French Ultramarine and white, and these colours will be used to make leaves and foliage on the tree. Here I'm making a brown colour using yellow ochre, crimson, sap green and primary cyan to add depth and more of a 3D appearance to the main trunk of the tree in the background. I'm adding some lemon yellow, cadmium red and white and mixing it in. I'm making some additional colours that will be used for the tree on the left. Now some extra white, and this will be used for highlights on the tree. I've taken up some of the green and I've mixed this in too. Now on top of the green mix, I'm adding crimson, some yellow ochre, some permanent mauve and some of the mix to the right. Now I'm mixing in some sap green. This is also going on the tree. The colours won't all be blended in, they'll be placed side by side. A little more of the permanent mauve and the cyan. Now some yellow ochre and a dab of crimson. This is for the shadow. Using Sap Green, Ultramarine and some of this light coloured mix on the right, I'm going to make a new bush in the foreground. Adding some yellow ochre to the green mix and some ultramarine and a bit more sap green and cyan for a new bush. Using a palette knife to mix in plenty of yellow ochre for a lighter toned bush here and a little bit of ultramarine to darken the shade. To make brown, we use red, yellow and blue. Green is already a mix of yellow and blue. So, to make the brown for a tree trunk in the foreground, I've mixed some cadmium red and some of the green mix to make a brown. The branches of this tree fan out. I want to create a darker background and make a fan shape on either side of the tree trunk, and this will be for the darker shaded area where some of the branches are hidden. Now I'm mixing primary cyan and sap green, and this will create the top branches. This tree has spiky leaves or branches, but I'm not sure what its name is. Mixing quite a lot of yellow ochre and some sap green for the golden green foliage, the autumnal colours for the tree on the right. A mix of ultramarine and sap green for the darker shaded areas. I've mixed a few greens and am making these fan shapes in the tree on the left, the one with the funny shaped trunk, and these will have yellow ochre and green tips to the fronds. White mixed with crimson and a touch of lemon yellow. Some of the same mix with extra white, a touch of permanent mauve, a touch of yellow, and it's a slightly different hue from the colour before. I'll use these colours to make a path. Because I'm applying a lot of paint, I'm using both a palette knife and a chisel tool to scoop up the paint and spread it around. This path curves to the right and meanders through the park. More permanent mauve and yellow ochre, and I'm mixing it all together using the palette knife. This is going to be the base colour for the ground behind, and I'm adding a touch of ultramarine. A touch of lemon yellow and some crimson, some primary cyan, I'm adding the tips to the spiky plant leaves using lemon yellow and white and some light green. The colour will be darker at the centre of the leaves that are attached to the branches of the tree and lighter at the ends. To get the fan appearance, I'm flicking the brush. The bristles are slightly splayed, and this will give the spiky effect. Darker in the centre and lighter at the tips, and I'm varying the colour between the different branches to make them stand out. Some cyan makes quite a vivid green. Using a pointed silicone tool, I'm applying light green to the tops of these bushes and dabbing so that some bits are light and some are dark. The base of the bushes is a dark colour. I'm using a small filbert brush quite flat and dabbing, and because of this technique I can overlay some darker green leaves on the light colour and add some lighter green to the dark colour. Along the edge of the path, I'm adding some spiky plants and grasses using a pointed silicone tool, and I'm using the yellows mixed with white and a little green, and I'm flicking upwards as I move along. Filling in the gap behind the spiky tree, I'm adding some more branches to the tree in the background. I'm using a golden green, which includes yellow ochre, to make the top of a hedge, which curves around to the right. The top is going to be lighter, and this is the flat part of the hedge. I'm now using a small filbert brush to add lighter coloured leaves on the tree on the right hand side. To give the path texture, I'm using the yellows mixed with white and a little permanent mauve. And along the edge of the path, I use some more permanent mauve mixed with ultramarine to create some shadow. The area under the spiky tree is going to be more shaded, so I'll add some shadow using the blues and reds. Using some sap green, a bit of crimson and darker blues, and yellow ochre, I can create the shaded part of the hedge on the inside, which curves to a point, and the same on the outside. I can move along using different shades of green that will be darker in some areas and lighter on the top where it catches the light. You can see that it's got a point on the left, and this is the top of the curve. I've mainly used mauve and primary cyan for the shadow under the tree. And I marked out the tree trunks before painting them a reddy brown. I'm making a small bush, a lavender, and this is going to be a purple colour, so I'm using permanent mauve and white and creating different tones. This bush will have a similar colour reflection in the water that I'll do shortly. The greenery that I've created on the left-hand side will create a green reflection in the water. I'll also add some white for the highlights, for the reflections, a bit of blue, some yellow ochre, some mauve for the lavender. The lake will be darker along the edge, where I'll make some spiky grasses. To create the appearance of water and the reflections, I'm going to do sideways strokes. Some will be dark strokes going across, and some will be light ones. I'll add some white to the colour that I've laid down and sweep across from side to side. To finish the painting, I'll make a small bench in the top right hand corner. I'll use a brown, similar to the kind that I use for the tree trunks, with a bit more red to make a bench colour. Thank you so much for watching and for your support. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and if you've painted along, it's time to show off your artwork to your family and friends.